Hi there, welcome to Polyphonic Tarot. This next reading is going to be for another returning client, this client rather does not really have a specific question this time. I have read for you before, so of course, as always, I'm looking forward to reading for you again. And your significator, as always, is the Queen of Discs. I'm just going to try to find her in here. Where is she? There she is. Okay. So we'll be using the Queen of Discs to represent you today, and I'm just going to do a kind of general check-in reading to kind of give you a look at what's going on, or we're going to basically ask what the most important thing we should be looking at right now is. That's usually what we look at with a general reading. We usually just let it decide for us what we want it to tell us. So anywho, let's go ahead and shuffle and invoke. Okay. Alright, so again, we're doing a general reading for you today. And your first card, the overall situation, is represented by the Knight of Discs. And crossing you is the Princess of Discs. Crowning you is the Eight of Wands. And beneath you is the Nine of Pentacles, of Discs, excuse me. Receding is the Knight of Cups. And coming in is the Prince of Swords. And then up the side, Ten of Discs for your perspective, Eight of Cups for your environmental factors, Nine of Swords for your hopes and fears and the overall outcome, the Ten of Swords. Okay, and underneath everything is lust. Okay. Before I begin. Okay. Well, the first thing I see is that there's a lot of people going on right now in your life. And one person is moving away from the situation, or one person's influence in particular is seemingly receding, and another person is taking greater influence in the present. And possibly this is an extension of yourself, because the Knight of Discs is representative of you in this situation. And crossed by the Princess of Discs, I don't really see those two things as being at odds with each other. I think, if anything, they really are energies that complement each other. And so for the most part, it's clear that right now you are very grounded just in everything. In a lot of areas of your life right now, things feel very secure, but also your life is kind of much like it was for the previous reading I did for the last person. Let me lower this so that you can see more of this. Sorry about that. Is that your life is very mundane right now, which is very contradictory to the energy of lust on the bottom of your deck. So I'm not sure what that's getting at there, but there's clearly... There's also an awful lack of fire here. Well, the good news is that you are doing very well financially right now. I think that's pretty clear to me at this point, based on what you have. You seem to be really enjoying the good things in life lately. And particularly, reaping the rewards of your labors, really, and enjoying your recent financial success. Now, the reason for this is both because of the Ten of Discs in your perspective and the Nine of Discs in the root of the situation. So both of those cards tend to have to do with money. Now, the interesting thing, this lust card is confusing me and it's throwing me off because the lust card is telling me that this situation is all about your passion and what it is you want to live for and the things that you want to create and do and the things that you're really engaged with on a deep level, on a kind of an intimate level. And on the other hand, there isn't a whole lot of that energy actually manifesting itself in any particular way. And I'm not sure why that is. It's almost like you are waiting on it. And I think that that's what the Princess of Discs is saying to me strongest, is that you're really currently biding your time with something and really patiently waiting to see how this event is going to play out or turn out. And I also get the sense, too, that you're in the process of possibly leaving behind some person that was romantically interested in you. This Knight of Cups bit in conjunction with the Eight of Cups in your environment. There's just this person, you realized that there was no spark with this person, and you are, I believe now that you are kind of letting this person's influence recede in your life, you're focusing more on grounding yourself and stabilizing yourself. And I think you feel really good with whatever independence that choice has given you. And perhaps in some ways it has revitalized you to an extent, with the Lust card again being on the bottom. But I'll tell you, the Lust card is preceded by the Four of Cups, which is, as we said in the previous reading, all about boredom and a sense of sort of lacking something, of there's something being, something kind of missing from the equation, like it's not quite fully there yet. And that's what I sense with you too, that you're with that Princess of Discs, just you're biding your time with something, or you're just, being very conscious of things like your health, which is also possible here. Um, I think you feel very in tune with your physicality right now, and that's important considering the Lust card too. I think you're feeling very grounded physically, and you're feeling very secure physically, which is all good things. You may be feeling very healthy lately too, and perhaps that's contributing to a kind of lust for life, perhaps. But the emphasis here is definitely on keeping to yourself and valuing oneself. You're finding value in yourself a lot. I don't think it's just that you've been financially successful lately. I think it goes beyond that. Just because I think that this is more to do with coming out of some kind of romantic involvement with someone. So I don't think that this situation is entirely just about money, though money could be playing into it to some extent. But what I think is interesting about your reading is that to say the whole reading is about lust, there's only one fire card in the whole thing, and it's up at the top. It isn't manifested in this situation yet. It's something that you can choose to bring into manifestation if you go about it right. And it is the Eight of Wands, which was also in the previous reading we did for the other person. And as we said in that reading too, it does represent haste, doing things quickly, and bursts of energy as opposed to energy that is very consistent and long-lasting. It's sort of just like a spark. And it seems that your life lacks spark right now. I almost feel like the Lust card here is just not present. and yet it's the heart of the situation. You are so focused on practical matters right now and on your security that you are not. I don't know. I get the sense that lust is not as active as I want it to be in this reading. Of course, I want lust to be active in your life because it's such a powerful card and it's such a wonderful card when it does act in our lives. But I don't sense that it's really taken much root in your situation. I think it's largely an energy that you want to make manifest, but are sort of going about very slowly. And also, you're possibly ignoring some of it because perhaps some of your sense of enjoyment or excitement came from this person that you're trying to. I just sense that you're trying to let go of this person, or and if the night of if there isn't a specific person that you're trying to leave behind, or whose influence you're trying to let go of, the Knight of Cups at least represents in the past some kind of romantic pursuit, or the pursuit of something that is emotionally satisfying in some way. And usually it's like pursuing some kind of romantic interest. It's like chasing after the person that you have a big crush on. Or, the Knight of Cups is all about romance and the romantic ideal, not necessarily literal romance, but pursuit of a very high, lofty ideal. That is almost unattainable. It's almost like searching for the Holy Grail. So whatever the case may be with that Knight of Cups, I think what's clear is that that is not an energy that is in your life currently, according to this. That idealism and that sense of chasing after dreams that the Knight of Cups represents is not present in this situation. And that may be because you're just so disappointed with whatever attempts you may have been making recently to find that kind of fulfillment in your environment. I just see that has not been met well lately. That your environment has not really been supportive of that sort of thing, and if anything, your environment has been much more conducive to the type of stuff you're doing right now, which is again more practical. And the reason for that is just this card and this card, even though they are connected, are very much opposed to each other. While the Knight of Cups is all about that idealism, indolence is sort of like the reality check and is really just putting a kibosh on whatever fun you may have been trying to have or were having through this figure, through this energy that you were channeling or connecting to. Excuse me. And again, right now that's not quite the case. Now, there is a little bit of Mercury here, which is kind of interesting. There's Mercury here and here. And your perspective is the Ten of Discs, which is interesting too. Which really just indicates this, again, this sense of just focusing on finances and just money, and what do you do with money. I don't know if part of this is more about deciding what to do with some money that you've come into, possibly, as well. There are a lot of different things going on here, and this is honestly not a particularly clear message. At least I mean, I don't think it's all that clear. I mean, maybe I'm making some sense here, and I just don't know it. But I don't know. It's hard to tell. You are not entirely happy, though. That Nine of Swords and your hopes and fears is really getting me down. There's just a lot of heaviness for you emotionally right now. Your hopes and fears are bleak. You don't have a lot of optimism for the future, and I think you're very afraid of what could be or what could not be, perhaps. And there's also, the Knight of Swords also is just a really bad card for guilt. It's just, it's always a sense of self blame and usually kind of a self inflicted violence. And obviously, that isn't necessarily a hope of yours. If anything, it's more of a thing that you are looking to avoid. Um, but you are concerned right now with stress and anxiety and depression of some kind. That is a real concern for you right now. And in the immediate future, the only other card in this reading that is connected to is the Prince of Swords in your immediate future. I should say it's also connected to the Ten of Swords in your overall outcome, which is also not ideal. Um, the Prince of Swords is your next major influence. I don't know. I almost see you as being pulled in several different directions in the immediate future. Like, there's going to be more put on your plate, and there is going to be given you're going to be given a reason to stress more. I feel the Prince of Swords is so scattered and is so just he's so logic oriented that and he's so thought oriented. He just likes to think about stuff. And I see you as overthinking a lot of things in the immediate future and sort of moving out of, well, not really moving out of this very practical phase of waiting and thinking and analyzing. It's sort of like that's going to continue with the Prince of Swords, but it's going to become more mental and more internalized. And it is likely, or it's possible, I should say. I shouldn't say that it's likely because that's not clear whether it's likely or not, but it is possible that by thinking more than doing, you will end up stressing about whatever it is that you're afraid of more. Because again, there's something that you're deeply afraid of, and I think you're trying very hard. I almost wonder if this reading is so obscure because you're not really looking at this right either. Like, I almost sense that you're trying very hard to not think about what you're afraid of, and you're trying to almost ignore your fears by focusing on money or focusing on the practical matters of your life, which are all well and good, and all of that's very nice. But the Ten of Discs is very transitory, and perhaps on some level you know that whatever material success or material happiness you have gained for yourself is very transitory and is not as fulfilling as things could be. And again, there's something missing. There's some action missing here from the equation that you need to just do. And I don't know what it is. It doesn't say what it is, to be perfectly honest, but I think it has something to do with whatever you are passionate about and whatever it is you think that you are put on this earth to do. It has to do with your passions, your creativity, which for whatever reason are stumped. They're just really, your creative energy seems very stuck, and it's telling me that you need to just act on it and think about it less, because the more that you think about it, the less that you're actually going to do, and the more you're going to stress about it until you have some kind of a breakdown, and not a breakthrough. The Ten of Swords as your overall outcome is a little worrisome, and it is directly connected to both the fear that you are possibly overlooking or trying to not think about too much, and this Prince of Swords bit, which is starting to take more influence in your life, and that's that, just overthinking personality. The Ten of Swords is sort of like just a final cut down. It's just a very short ending to something, and it's usually abrupt and sometimes violent, and just very painful. It usually comes as kind of a shock. It's a lot like the Tower, but it's more it's more painful. The Tower is surprising and shocking, but there's usually a good aspect to it. You can always search through the rubble of the tower and find something worth salvaging. And the Ten of Swords is like that, but it's a lot darker. And it's less obviously having to do with universal forces, but it is darker than the Tower is. And you don't have any other solar cards to kind of ground that except for lust. And so the only thing that I can conclude here is that the overall outcome of the Ten of Swords is still connected to that passion bit. I get this sense that you need to just act on it, or else the opportunity to act on it is going to pass you by, and there will come a time when it's too late for you to move on your feelings in this regard. I don't know if this has to do with a romantic interest of yours, or just your desire to pursue something less practical and more expressive. I just feel like you've let go of this Knight of Cups bit, and it's not necessarily doing good things for you. It's important, I think, if anything, for you to really do something with this. And again, that is what the Ten of Discs is all about. It's like that you have these resources at hand, but you're thinking so hard about how to use them, and really they just need to be used. They just need to be used. That's the overall message of the Ten of Discs in any reading, is that money is great, but it's going to go eventually. Money is not eternal in any way, shape, or form. I feel that energy is so at odds with this lust bit, this passion that you are not quite acting on. And I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's because you feel like you aren't ready to act on it, or that it just isn't practical, for you. Because I know that that's a concern here. And that, of course, makes sense considering that you are a Virgo, and so you are naturally inclined to pragmatism. So I understand. But what seems to me is that by not pursuing it, or what have you, you're just making the situation darker than it really needs to be. I get the sense that this is telling you that you have everything you need in order to launch yourself into whatever it is that you're looking to, whatever it is you're debating launching yourself into. The Eight of Wands, if I can share a little bit personally, when the Eight of Wands has come up for me in readings, it is usually, especially in that position, it's usually a message telling us to just act, because I relate to this situation as well. It's less about thinking through and just trusting that if that goal that you once had, that you think that you have grown to think is no longer relevant or worth pursuing, if that's something that really is of value to you and is really meaningful to you, then you can't live without it, and there's no point to try to do so. So I think you're only going to create more stress for yourself. And again, I think that stress is, I don't know. I think the stress is happening on a number of levels, because you're uninspired by the things around you, and so I think you're partially stressed by that. But there's also just the stress of like not really. I don't know. There's there's a sense of suppression through this reading, and it's coming to me all the way from the bottom of the deck with this Ten of Wands. You have the Ten of Wands on the bottom of the deck too, underneath the Magus, underneath the Four of Cups. So there is this aspect of keeping something locked down and kept quiet. And I don't know why. I don't know why you feel the need to do that. This is a very strange reading. This might be the strangest reading I've ever done for you, just because it's so unclear. It's not evocative in any way. And again, I think that that's representative of the kind of way that you're experiencing this situation. It's just not overt. This is just, I don't know, you just seem very stuck about all of this, like a stick in the mud, as we'd say. It just, you're just thinking about it way too much, and that's going to continue. And I think if you continue to think about it, to overthink about the situation, that's just not going to help you or anyone. I really think the best thing for you to do is to just act on whatever this impulse is telling you. I would understand if you have a lot of questions for me, or if you have any comments or concerns about this reading. Please let me know. I would love to hear your feedback, because I'm actually slightly stumped about what all of this is about. So if you want to, throw me some more concrete details, if some of this is making sense and you want to maybe share what your interpretation of what I've been saying is, then maybe I can try to help you out a little bit better. But for now, that's kind of all I'm getting, and there's nothing that's really shouting at me, because none of your symbols really are meshing together at all. It's not a very cohesive message. Perhaps ironically, because the strongest planet you have is Mercury, the planet of communication. So there's some kind of disconnect here, and I'm not sure where it's coming from. It's somewhere in you. It's not coming from without you. It's not an external force, because there are no external forces in this reading. This is really about you and your choices and the way that you're choosing to represent yourself and your being. This whole strip of middle cards is court cards and is all about like personalities. The Knight of Cups is so different from the Knight of Discs, and the Prince of Swords is is different from the previous two. You've got one personality that's very emotional, another that's very practical, and another one that's very cerebral. And I think you need to balance those three out. You have water, earth, and air. The only thing that's missing here is fire, and it's the one thing that hasn't manifested in your reading yet, this Eight of Wands bit. So I really, again, maybe you can share with me exactly what it is that you're passionate about, that you're not too sure about. But whatever it is, I just think that it would be best for you to act on it. All right. So again, please, if you have any feedback, please feel free to share it with me. If you have any questions, also please feel free to shoot me an email. Otherwise, I hope I was helpful in some way, or at least provided you with some food for thought. And thank you very much again for your business. And I'd like to wish you a Happy New Year. All right? Thanks. Bye.